Students from across the galaxy attended his lectures and gained more than mere knowledge. They learned about one another and diverse cultures. It wasn't until Julie, the first human child to enroll in the school, joined that instructor Subal encountered challenges with his pupils, forming friendships and embracing a new arrival. Julie appeared to be a mystery to the other students. The planet she came from, Earth, was shrouded in enigma and folklore, often labeled a death world or deemed uninhabitable. Instructor Subal believed this negative reputation was why Julie spent her lunch breaks alone, secluded in a dim corner of the common area every day. He had frequently witnessed the young Earthling attempting to connect with her classmates, but they remained too cautious and hesitant to return her gestures of friendship. Determined, he resolved to demonstrate to the entire class just how similar all his students were, regardless of their planetary origins. After all, any world could be considered a death world, and every planet had regions that were inhospitable. When viewed from this perspective, Instructor Subal felt confident that the aura of mystery and fear surrounding Julie would vanish, allowing bonds to blossom. As he observed the class, he assigned them a project. In 3 weeks, each student was to create a video presentation about their home world, highlighting its hazards, both animal and geological. Students sharing the same planet could collaborate, but he warned them that this project would account for 40% of their final grade, urging them to invest effort commensurate with the weight of the assessment. Julie, the lone Earthling in the entire school, let alone the class, worked diligently on her assignment, emphasizing the perils of her home planet, as did the other students. On presentation day, Julie was scheduled third. She sat nervously, yet was keenly interested in the reports preceding hers, curious about what threats lurked on these other worlds. The first presentation detailed a planet named Barry, where 3 native students described in depth the dangers posed by a creature called the Forer. They showed a video of a small furry quadruped with a bushy tail. "Watch this," one presenter exclaimed, as the creature reacted to a dangling cloth by hissing and striking at it, claws appearing suddenly as it attacked. "See those razor-sharp talons?" the presenter said, pointing to the screen. "They weren't visible just moments ago. If that had been your arm, this beast would have torn flesh to the bone." A ripple of applause and murmurs filled the room. The presenters beamed with pride as they returned to their seats. Only Julie appeared puzzled. Noticing her furrowed brow, Instructor Subal asked if she had a question. "But instructor," Julie said with confusion, "wasn't that just a house cat?" Laughter broke out among the students. Subal raised his hand for silence, a faint smile touching his lips. "No, Julie," he replied. "That animal is a vicious predator. It would be completely unsuitable as a pet, unless you valued your life." Still perplexed, Julie nodded and waited for the next presentation. The second group claimed their native creature was terrifying, but nothing compared to what they called death from the skies. They elaborated dramatically on how a scourge from their world could descend without warning, ripping flesh from bone and striking terror into the population. Music played ominously as the video focused on a brightly colored flying beast with a short, curved beak. "Claws are bad enough," said one presenter, "but watch the strength of this creature." The feathered predator bit down on a hard seed with a loud crack, breaking it open to reveal the soft interior, which it began to eat. The class erupted in excitement. "Did you see that? Imagine if that had been a finger. Thank the creator we don't have those on our planet." Julie stared blankly at the screen before waving a hand and loudly stating, "But that looks just like a parakeet." Silence fell over the classroom, followed by whispers accusing her of jealousy and rudeness. Instructor Subal worried his plan was unraveling. Julie had always been pleasant, but today her behavior bordered on disruptive. "Julie," he said sternly, "please come up and give your presentation." For some reason, she hesitated and remained seated. "Instructor," she finally said nervously, "I fear I may have misunderstood. I thought we were supposed to show the dangers of our planet, not the hazards of our pets." Subal's eyes narrowed. Pets? That feathered harbinger of death could never be a pet. Julie looked deflated and muttered something under her breath. "What did you say?" the instructor demanded sharply. A student near Julie stood and said, "My 4-year-old cousin has a stupid parakeet." Instructor Subal fixed Julie with a stern gaze. You will present your assignment now, or I will contact your guardians, and you will receive a 0. Reluctantly, Julie stood and walked to the front of the class, every gaze upon her cold and unwelcoming. She knew this was social suicide. No one talked to her before, and after this, they certainly wouldn't. If they thought a parakeet was dangerous, so be it. They would get her presentation. With resignation, Julie began. My presentation covers the dangers we face on my homeworld, Earth. A slowly rotating blue marble appeared on the screen. In the northern regions of my continent, we encounter creatures that fear no other being, she said softly, as images of a small, stocky beast appeared, transitioning then to a stunning landscape. The ground was blanketed in white when suddenly the creature erupted from beneath the surface, sending a spray of white particles flying in all directions. The entire classroom gasped in alarm. Julie paused the video, and the word Wolverine appeared frozen on the screen, superimposed over the snarling visage of the ferocious beast. What is that? A student asked, pointing a trembling finger at the monitor. That's a wolverine, Julie replied solemnly. They're quite a fierce animal. No way, the student interrupted. What's all that white stuff? Confused, Julie stared back at the screen. That's snow. Snow? What's snow? The alien echoed, perplexed. Julie, growing more bewildered, explained, snow is basically rain that freezes before it reaches the ground. A sharp intake of breath escaped the student. Your rain freezes in the air, like outside? Not in a lab. Julie simply shrugged. Yeah, for about 25 to 40% of the year, depending on the location. Silence followed her words. Then she resumed the presentation. You can see the wolverine is so fierce, it's willing to confront predators much bigger than itself. The screen showed a small wolverine snarling and charging at a grizzly bear. What in the 7 hells is that? A student yelled, pointing at the massive muscular creature on the screen. Julie paused the video again, looked at the student, then back at the screen. That's a bear. They're everywhere on my home planet. Everywhere? How are you even still alive? The student stammered, trembling in his seat. Julie chuckled. Bears are tough, sure, but there are far worse dangers on Earth. You must be joking, a voice challenged. Julie recognized her instructor, who was sitting in his chair visibly shaken, though he smiled weakly. Without missing a beat, Julie fast-forwarded to an image of calm, clear blue water. 71% of my planet is covered by water, she explained. And in that water, there are countless creatures like fish, crabs, seahorses, squid, and more. As she spoke, charming images of these animals appeared on the screen. We even have animals called seals, she added, glancing at Duat, an alien classmate who bore a striking resemblance to an anthropomorphic seal, much to everyone's amusement. Duat grinned broadly, watching the seals leap playfully through the water. And sharks, Julie continued. Suddenly, a gigantic great white shark appeared on the screen, chasing and biting a seal. A rush of blood-stained water and chunks of flesh plunged into the depths, leaving only silence in its wake. Duat sat frozen, mouth agape, a silent scream on his lips. Stop it! Stop it! Instructor Sabal shouted. But I haven't even told you about vampire bats that tear into your skin and drink your blood, or crocodiles, lions, snakes, scorpions, and spiders, Julie said, her voice steady. Enough, just stop! Instructor Sabal gasped, clutching his chest. Duat stared at Julie in utter terror. How did your people even survive? Because, Julie said calmly, meeting the horrified eyes of her classmates, the deadliest creatures on Earth are humans. With that, she returned to her seat. As she made her way down the aisle, she couldn't help but notice the other students shrinking away from her in fear. At lunch, Julie nearly cried, knowing her presentation would guarantee she'd spend the rest of her school days isolated. She nibbled at her sandwich, appetite long gone. A shadow loomed over her. Looking up, she saw Duat standing nearby. You're amazing, he said sincerely. Have you ever seen a shark in real life? Surprised but pleased, Julie nodded. Yes, my uncle and I caught one while fishing once. It wasn't as big as the one in the video, though. You caught one? Duat said, impressed. Imagine catching a beast like that. Another shadow fell as a different student asked, Can you tell me more about those vampire bats? They sound terrifying. Another shadow, another student. Julie smiled and tried to answer all their questions, though there were too many. When lunch ended, Julie was surrounded by curious, admiring students as she walked back to class. Looking out the window, Instructor Sabal smiled to himself. It hadn't gone exactly as planned, but it worked. He turned back to grading Julie's assignment, attempting to watch more of her presentation while the students were away, but gave up when he saw what a fish called a piranha did to a large herbivore. Chuckling softly, he murmured, "If she can survive that place, she definitely deserves an A."